Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&A, so let me get my hat on and let's get to this first question. Alright. Hey Jason, what is your definition of a novice and intermediate lifter? By some people's standards I'm an intermediate, but by other people's standards I'm a novice. For example, one definition is that when I can do a bench of 100 kilograms for 5 reps, 140 kilo squat for 5 reps, and 180 kilo deadlift for 5 reps, then you are no longer a novice. That, by the way, is for my novice program. That's my definition. Another definition would be when you can no longer progress linearly from workout to workout. You are no longer a novice. All right, good question. And people need to understand when we're talking about this isn't about bragging rights. It's not about classifying yourself based upon your experience level. This is about being able to select the right type of training program. Because what you need to understand, an intermediate simply cannot gain strength or muscle anywhere near as fast as a novice. An advanced lifter cannot gain strength or muscle anywhere near as fast as an intermediate. When you understand from that perspective that that's the reason we have these definitions, it makes sense that the type of training programs don't push progression as hard or as fast for an intermediate as it does a novice, or an advanced lifter as it does an intermediate. It's not to your advantage to be in the next category up. In fact, it's a disadvantage. You're going to make less progress. Accordingly, your programs are going to push you less hard. Now, I set that because that's what I feel that a certain demographic of the population should be able to achieve, right? When I set those numbers, is the ones that he quoted. Makes sense? But that's assuming you're gaining weight, you're bulking, and you still have some noob gains in the tank. Here's the thing that you've got to look at. If someone is cutting, notice that I run a different type of program. I have a cutting version of that same novice program. It doesn't push progression as hard, and it reduces the total volume. Why? Because someone who's losing weight is going to struggle to progress linearly. So does that mean they're an intermediate? And that's the thing we get into with these other things. Does it mean you're an intermediate if because you're losing body fat and not eating enough food that you can't progress as fast, that you struggle with certain types of linear progression? No, it doesn't make you an intermediate, but it might mean you might want to lean towards an intermediate program. You might want to lean towards an intermediate program when you're cutting. All right, now my novice program, the cutting version, could actually be used for a late novice. It could be used for a late novice for the same reason that you use it for cutting, and that's one reason I made that recommendation. But the thing is, it is true, a novice, particularly a late novice, really might want to consider running an intermediate program. Some intermediates could run the cutting version of my novice program. The whole point of classifying where you are. And again, people get mad when you say, oh, this person, how can you say I'm a novice because of this strength level? You're so full of it. Well, you are, because that means that you're capable of gaining muscle and strength relatively quickly on a good program. That's all that means. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that you're a beginner. It means that your body can still adapt like a novice. That's a good thing. It sucks being an advanced lifter. Like, people who start out early on have no clue of the struggles of the advanced lifter, of how hard an advanced lifter is going to have to work to put 10 pounds on their deadlift or 20 pounds on their deadlift. To a noob, that's laughable. They're like, well, you just go in and deadlift and your deadlift goes up 20 pounds if you just come in and pull once a week. You'll get there in like a month, right? But it takes the advanced lifter sometimes 2 years to add 20 pounds to a deadlift. And that's hence the confusion. But you know what? The thing as far as the unable to progress linearly, sure, because your diet and lifestyle might force you onto an intermediate program. And if that's the case, then go to an intermediate program. Problem solved. Again, people don't need to have these hard definitions of these. These are just definitions we use to place where you are on the spectrum and the ability to pick an appropriate training style and progression rate. That's it. That's the whole point. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I just finished your Novice 5x5 and I want to thank you for it. It was awesome and I saw the best results on it. Now I would like to continue with your intermediate program, but my problem is with accessories. You say that we should choose them. Yes, I do, and the reason is novice lifters don't have weak points. So when people talk about weak point training, or I need to do extra work for a given part of my body as a novice, No, you don't. You're full of shit. You have a body part or a muscle that you want to get bigger. That doesn't mean it's a weak point, right? You just want bigger arms, so you think you need to do more arm. Well, no, if you just train your body balance, your arms will get bigger because your whole body's a weak point when you're a novice. An intermediate actually develop real weak points by the time they're an intermediate. So if you're going to run my intermediate program, I leave it up to the lifter to determine their weak points. Now, you've been training seriously for at least a year or you wouldn't be running an intermediate program, right? And by that time, you should be able to assess your personal weak points. You should be able to assess your personal weak points, whether they're from a hypertrophy balance perspective or whether they are from an athletic perspective. You should be able to find them yourself at that point. And that's why I leave it up to you as the individual lifter to take responsibility for determining your own weak points. And you know what? If you have to come to me and say, hey, I can't figure out what accessories I need to run, I don't know what my weak points are, then don't run any accessories. And that's going to sound like a shock to a lot of people. You've got 5 basic exercises that work every muscle in the body. Every muscle in your body gets worked on my intermediate off-season program, right? So if everything is getting fairly balanced work and you don't have any glaring weak points that you need to address, then why would you need any accessory work? Accessory work is there to be an accessory to help you where you struggle and where you're weakest at. Well, if that doesn't exist, then it's no problem. Skip the accessories if you don't have glaring weaknesses. Otherwise, I mean, you could just look at the program and say, okay, maybe there's not enough bicep work and I want to be more aesthetic or whatever. Okay, fine. We'll throw some bicep work in and some chin-ups and you're done. Problem solved. It can be that simple. It can be that simple for the intermediate. They just have a body part they want to put a little more work on, or a lift they want to work on more. Fine, throw it in as an accessory. Problem solved. But if you don't have something you really want to improve and you don't see a glaring weakness, you don't need any accessories in. That's what you wait till you see a weakness develop, then run an accessory for it. Or if you have something you want to specialize on a little bit, okay, do a little accessory work there. That's what it comes down to. You don't need to overcomplicate this, and I've left this up to the person so that they can accept responsibility for addressing their own weak points. They can see where they want to put their extra focus. The rest of it's just a general balanced template for overall size and strength. All right, next question. Hey Jason, what's your opinion on the rest weeks after 12 to 14 weeks of progressive overload? Should the periodization with lower workload and less intensity on some days be enough, or does it make sense to rest completely from the strength training for a whole week? I don't recommend that people take entire weeks off from training. There are times when you have to because of circumstances in your life. I mean, I've had to just due to things coming up. That's life. It happens. You should never program entire weeks off. I recommend that if someone is pushed hard for a 12-week training block, like 4 sets of 3-week blocks, deload for a week. And deloading, again, I've got countless videos on this, but I'll just refresh it because some people aren't going to know this. They might be new to my channel. Deloading means you reduce your total volume and you cut your weights in half. Now, you can mini deload, but after 12 weeks of pushing hard, you probably need a full deload. What does that mean? If you've been doing 3 sets of 8 with 100 units, I don't care if it's pounds or kilos, whatever, 200. Okay, you've been doing 3 sets of 8 is your best with 200 units of weight on exercise, press, squat, pull, whatever you want to call it. Cut down to 100 pounds or 100 kilos, whatever unit you're using. Cut it in half, 50%. Reduce your volume by about 1/3, or take 1 set out. If you've been doing 3 sets, drop to 2. If you've been doing 5 sets, drop to 4. That's a deload. In fact, you could come in and just do 1 or 2 sets. That's usually how I treat deloads myself. If I have the need to do a deload, if I've been pushing so hard that I need to do a deload, I only do 1 to 2 sets of an exercise. I cut out any extra fluff and just go to my basic exercises, reduce the weight down, and come in and deload somewhere in the 50 to 70% range of what I've been able to handle. Reduce the weight and be done with it. And yeah, sometimes I even do the 50% too. Just depends on what you need. But I personally deload when I know that my body needs a deload. Because I'm more advanced, different goals, I don't really program in blocks anymore for my needs because I'm not competing in anything. And when I know my body needs a break, I just come in and deload. It's as simple as that. But generally, that's what you need to do. You don't need to be taking weeks off unless some life circumstance forces you to. All right, next question. Do you recommend going on a controlled surplus after competing in physique to reach a healthy body fat composition? This is part of Eric's Helm recovery diet protocol. Thanks in advance, Jason. You are awesome. You're not going to like my answer, because for me, anyone who would come to me who's just finished competing in some sort of physique thing, I'm looking at rehabilitating them out of that completely, because I don't recommend it. My recommendation is to never compete in any physique endeavor. I think they're destructive to the body physically. I think they're destructive to the body, and from a health and fitness perspective, I can't recommend anyone compete in a physique competition, even a drug-free one, any more than I'd recommend going on 2 grams of gear. The best thing you can do is to get to a healthy body fat immediately. Now, some people are like controlled and do it slow, so you want to keep yourself in an unhealthy state longer. And then people start talking about, well, but I need to maintain a certain level or whatever because I'm going to compete again next year. Well, if you're going to compete again next year, I'm not giving you advice. All right, I'm not interested in helping you continue to destroy your body any more than I would recommend a heroin addict continue to destroy their body. Getting that lean is devastating to the individual. It harms you. I'm going to recommend the opposite. Get out of the physique competition completely and immediately get to the healthy body fat. Get up to 10% body fat for men, up to about 18% for women. All right, get out of that sub whatever body fat. In fact, I'd like to see you guys get up to 12 immediately. Do it in a week. All right, gain 20 pounds in a week if you need to. Get the hell out of that 6 to 7% body fat range before it devastates your hormone profile, before it causes organ damage. It's just terrible. It's horrible for you to do. So yeah, I'd like to see people get to 10 to 12% body fat as fast as humanly possible. If they can do it in a week, and that means they gain 10 or 12 pounds of fat in a week, then by all means do it. And a lot of people can be like, well, that's horrible. I can't believe you'd recommend that. Yeah, I can't believe anyone would recommend that people compete in these competitions and get down to 6 or 7% body fat. That's the horrible thing. I'm trying to rehab a person back out of that. I know that's probably not the answer that you wanted. It's not going to be the popular answer in this community, but physique competition is bad for you. And I'm just trying to give the advice to make a person healthy again. The only problem they might run into is once they start that post competition binge, they might not be able to stop at 10 or 12% body fat. But again, that's the price you pay for doing something that insane to your body. I mean, there's going to be a price to pay. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And again, people need to remember you're coming to someone who stands against this sort of thing. I think it's bad for you. I think it's terrible. I don't advocate it. And there's no other way to put that. And some people be like, well, you at one time in your life for a short time were into that. Yes, I was. Many, many, many years ago. And I think it was stupid then. And I think it's stupid now. I wouldn't do it again, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. And that is my official stance on it. All right, next question. Hello, Jason. I currently work out in my home gym 3 to 4 days a week with primary compound exercises. I miss the social aspect of going to a regular gym though, so I was wondering if I could work out 3 to 4 days at my home gym with only compounds and then go to the regular gym the other days to do some fluff and pump isolation work. Or will this impede my recovery and cause overtraining? That's a unique situation you find yourself in. You know what? Honestly, I didn't miss the social aspects when I trained at home. Because for me, the training wasn't about it being a social event. Training was for me being, reaching my goals, training. I didn't care about the social aspect. There are other things that you can do in life that are social. And for me, by that same token, because I'm not interested in all this silly fluff and pump, I'm not in here socializing with people who are doing fluff and pump. Now, when I see someone lifting some fairly heavy weight or coming in and deadlifting or doing a heavy compound with really good technique and a decently respectable weight, and I'm in a commercial gym, I absolutely will socialize with those people and chat with them, and I get that. But, you know, if you're there just for the social aspect, just to be around other people who lift, and you feel the need to come in and do this to add some balance to your life, then by all means do so. What I would recommend, so that you don't get overuse injuries, when you come in and do the fluff and pump, come in and do literally fluff and pump. Don't come in and do shitty form and come in and do a bunch of heavy curls like this and do all the goofy shit that people do. Come in and just do some light cable stuff. Come in and do a little bit of abs. Use good technique and really lightweight. Like, don't take anything close to failure, and you should be fine. It shouldn't interfere with your recovery at all at that point. All right, next question. Hi Jason, I know you switched from squats to deadlifts for your primary leg compound movement. I am currently squatting twice a week and deadlifting once a week. I used to alternate 2 times per week deadlift and 2 times a week squat, but I'm trying a periodization program for squats with 2 times per week. I don't want to lose strength on the deadlift and ideally still want to progress. By only performing sets once a week, am I impeding on future progress? Would it be beneficial to add in light set deadlifts for stimulation purposes on the alternate back by day? Don't want to overdo it. I just don't want to lose the progress I've made. Tough question. You know, you've got a couple options there. Honestly, I would say if you can handle it recovery-wise, you could come in and do a lighter dynamic effort day. Do some speed pulls. Right? Do some speed pulls. That's fine. However, it also is going to depend on how your program is written. As far as if you're pushing the squat really hard on these 2 days and you're coming in and deadlifting once a week, you might struggle with that additional volume. But the thing is, you know what? You can progress deadlifting 1 day a week. You can progress deadlifting 1 day a week. It shouldn't be a problem at all as long as there's a little bit of effort in there and you're getting good technique in. If you get stronger on your squat and you get stronger on your back work, your deadlift is going to go up even if you don't actually even push your deadlift. That's what you need to understand. Let's say you've been doing whatever, 405 on the deadlift for sets of 5, and that's your peak set. And you come in and you continue to do that every week and you don't even add weight and you do that 1 set every week on the deadlift, right? But your squat goes up 10%, all your other back work goes up 10%. When you do try to progress again on the deadlift, you're going to instantly find that your deadlift is probably 8 to 10% stronger automatically the first time you test it again as a result of that, or within 1 training session of pushing it harder. It will get there. So again, there's no need to overdo this. You need to keep that in perspective. Other exercises increase the deadlift because a deadlift uses so many muscles. Usually you have a weakness somewhere in your deadlift that other big compounds can hypertrophy and strengthen a muscle that might be a slightly weak link in your deadlift. And when that happens, your deadlift goes up automatically even without progressing on the deadlift, without even trying. That's oftentimes the nature of the exercise. So I wouldn't sweat it. Just go ahead and do it your way. And if it's pushing the squats really hard, don't bother with the extra speed day on the deadlifts. But if you feel like you can recover from it adequately, yeah, throw in a light speed day, a dynamic effort day for the deadlifts. It should be fine. But you need to balance it upon what you're doing and how you're recovering. All right, next question. Would you make any changes to your basic program for non-athletes, currently running that along with Brazilian Jiujitsu training? You know what? Honestly, if you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training and you're really serious about it, you might want to go to a more explosive and power-oriented training style, but that's okay. My non-athlete program, for those who aren't familiar, is the most simple, easy program I've ever written. It's for people who just are pursuing general fitness. They just want to get all the health benefits of lifting, but they don't care about maximizing size and strength. It's not a big priority in their life. It's a 2-day-a-week full-body program. Using a very, very simple progression pattern. And it is much slower than, say, my novice program. So people will still gain muscle and strength on it. They'll gain nice balanced muscle and strength, and they'll get all the health benefits, the fitness benefits of training without really risking injury, without getting sore, stuff like that, without a big time commitment. So if you're really just doing it for overall fitness, there's no need to change it. Leave it how it is. If you start having a lifestyle or sport specific reasons that you want a different training style, a different training because you're lifting for more than just your overall fitness and just to be a stronger, healthier person, then you would need to run an appropriate program. So I wouldn't necessarily change that program. I would look at it from the perspective of, do you have different goals that will require a different program from that one and run the appropriate program? That's how I would look at it personally. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.